Welcome to the official Lawyer Minds podcast. Lawyer Minds is an ever-growing ecosystem for all the resources modern lawyers need. As the official Lawyer Minds podcast, we'll discuss everything from the latest happenings on the website to industry news. Get ready. Here we go. It's time to dive into the minds of successful lawyers. Here are your hosts, Tad Thomas and Mike Campbell.
Mike, you ever had any bad witnesses?
Have I? Yeah. I mean, I've had several horror stories and depositions where I discover facts about my client at the same time that defense counsel does. And they're not facts that I wanted to discover myself, nor did I want defense counsel to discover.
You know, some people would say there's no bad witnesses. There's only bad lawyers who fail to prep witnesses.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd probably fall into that category. I will say in my defense, on a few of these, I've met with the clients multiple times. And looking back now, I realized after the fact what I didn't dig deeper into. So, yes, I would agree with that.
So did you go to AAJ Amped Up?
Yeah, it was outstanding. I mean, what a adventurous approach to tackling what we're all dealing with here, which is we're wanting to get some education, we're wanting to network, but we can't do it.
Yeah, I hated not being with everybody, but as far as putting everything together and on a short notice, really, and making a virtual conference, I thought it went really well. And I was. Yep. Instead of running from meeting to meeting, I was clicking from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting most of the time.
And that's the thing is as an officer of the organization, you don't get to go to the education as much as someone like, as someone like I do or anyone else does. But now you have the opportunity to go back and rewatch some of the things that you missed, which is something, that was possible before, but at a premium cost.
Right. We're going to talk to Katherine James today, and she and Jerry O'Neill did a seminar. And of course I was at a meeting, so I didn't get to see it. So I get to go back. I'm going to go back and take a look at it and get to watch it later on down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is I go through, and I don't know, you don't get to do this, but I go through and I look at the educational seminars and I think I need to hit that one, but it conflicts with this one. I really want to go to that one, but it conflicts with this other one. And to know that I get to watch all those, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping by the time the winter conference rolls around in February that, some of this COVID stuff's done and we can be back in person and actually get to see everything. And instead of doing a virtual bourbon tasting, do maybe a live bourbon tasting.
That's right. That's right. And, we talk a lot about AAJ. We talk a lot about KJA. We talk a lot about MATA. These are organizations that are near and dear to our hearts because they're, as members of these organizations, we're on the front lines making sure that the courtrooms stay open. Right. And so it's not just a phrase we use. It's an actual action we're engaged in. And some people who might be listening to this are thinking, what does it mean when someone says, I came in through education, like with MATA or AAJ, I came in through education. Could you tell me a little bit about what that means?
There's for AAJ, there's the three pillars. So, there's advocacy, community, and education. And, those of us that, like me, that came in through education, it's really our entry into the organization and how we came about doing it. We interviewed Toby Milrod a couple of weeks ago, and, Toby came in through the litigation groups because he was doing mass torts, and there's so many litigation groups that address all of these different products. I came in because I wanted to go to seminars, and I started going to seminars, and then eventually I was asked to speak. And then, fortunately I got to go all over the country speaking. I'm going to be doing the virtual Essentials College coming up in September, which is, the first level trial college for newer lawyers that haven't tried a lot of cases. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that was our entry into the organization. So if I say I came in through education, that was the biggest part of my involvement in the organization, was teaching and learning.
So if someone wants to come in through advocacy, let's say they're not involved with an organization like AAJ, they sitting at home thinking, okay, I'm sharing posts on Facebook. I'm frustrated about this issue. Wouldn't it be great to be able to talk to my legislator? Something they could do is get involved with AAJ, and AAJ says, hey, look, we actually have the tools and experience to show you how to effectively communicate with your legislator.
Right. And we do lobby days a couple times a year with different groups. So, I've been able to go to Washington, D.C., and you show up, and for lobby days, whether it's Women's Caucus or Minorities Caucus or Republican Caucus, whichever one it is, you show up and they spend a half day telling you about what the issues of the day are, whether it's arbitration or, whatever. And they kind of tell you what bills are up and what bills we're lobbying on. And then the next day, AAJ staff's set up all of these appointments for you with different legislators. And you go in and meet with the legislator or meet with their staff and talk about what bills AAJ's working on the Hill and ask to get their support. And, that was a great experience. I remember the very first one. A good friend of mine, Derek Walker, was from Virginia, and they put the Virginia guys and the Kentucky guys all together. And, we went and, hit probably 12 different congressional offices during the day. So, yeah, you can get involved in the advocacy side, you can get involved in the education side and the community side, getting involved with all the different caucuses and litigation groups and sections. And, it's great experience. So many really good people.
And I've been with you before, and we'll get emails from Linda Lipson, who's in charge of AAJ on the staff side. And it will be like, hey, we were able to limit the harm of this bill or stop this bill from moving through Congress. And I'm, just like the sense of giving everybody high fives. And it's not even for practice areas we're involved with.
Yeah.
And I had that experience. I think maybe we were together last summer. It was like, we got this email at the same time, and it was something didn't get through the House because AAJ had been working so hard to prevent it. And it wasn't even something that I touch or concern myself with. And it was like, yes, victory for the people out there fighting the good fight.
Right. But, talking about education, so that's where I met Katherine James, who's our guest today on the podcast. And my first experience with Katherine and Alan, who's her husband and partner, was through the AAJ Ultimate Trial Advocacy College, which they had at Harvard. And I went as a student, and, they put on, probably 2 or 3 hours of the seminar over, 2 or 3 days. And man, they're teaching at a whole different level when they're at that. I mean, we were working on rising inflection and falling inflection and, tone and, sentence structure and, really such high level stuff. But, she and Alan are just so entertaining. And now I've seen them speak many times over the years. So I'm real excited about not only her book, which is released now, but the interview we're doing today.
Yeah, I'm grateful she came on, and I can't wait to hear what she has to say.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and here's the interview with author Katherine James. Katherine, it's so great to see you. How are you doing?
I am doing really well. I have to tell you, silver linings all the way around as much as I possibly can.
Fantastic.
So I tell everybody, I went to the AAJ Ultimate at Harvard a couple years ago, and you and Alan were just phenomenal speakers. Every time I see you all on an AAJ agenda, I tell people they got to go. You guys are spectacular.
Well, thank you so much. We love AAJ. We've been doing different meetings since I think 1984. Mm-hmm. So that's a long time now.
You've got such an interesting background. Talk to us about, you're a trial consultant, you're an author, but you're also a playwright and an actress. Tell us how did you get started and how did you get into this area to begin with?
Well, when I was 25 and knew everything, now I'm 68, there's large gaps in my understanding of how the world actually functions. But when I was 25 and brilliant and fearless, um, we had a wonderful man in the theater in which I was getting a master's degree and Alan was getting a master's degree. His name was Ed Hastings. He's no longer with us, but he was one of my great mentors. We were putting on a show, and he pulled jury duty. And of course, we were shocked that the judge didn't understand that we were putting on a show. He couldn't possibly serve on a jury. That was so important. But he came back from that experience dazed, confused, upset, and hysterical. And this is a man who showed no affect. So I was quite shocked at his response. I said, well, what was that like? He said, that was the weirdest and most humiliating experience of my life, and I shall never repeat it. I said, what happened? And out came a story that every single time he talked about another bad thing and another bad thing happening to the jury and another bad thing and another bad thing, it was like a little light bulb went over my head, like a Roadrunner cartoon. And I knew I could fix every single problem he was talking about, every single one, through what I knew from the theater. And I've been in the theater since I was 5, so even longer than I've been a trial consultant. So at the end of his tale, which really ends in a rather murky way with the judge addressing the jurors and saying, how you people could have sat through this trial and come up with that verdict is beyond me. But I guess as long as we have the stupid jury system in this country, you are who we are stuck with, right? So I just knew I believed in the stupid jury system of the United States, even as a 25-year-old with no legal background at all. And that I knew how to fix things. And that's how it started. And here we are, all these many, many years later, 43 we're working on at this point. It's been a long time.
So you made the decision, I'm going to go out and help train lawyers, but how did you make that leap? Where did you go from there?
Well, the best thing that we did was we burst on the scene pretty much nationally through AAJ and Colorado Trial Lawyers Association. We started out doing a lot of research. We went to courtrooms and we studied law students. And of course, now I know law students would be the most difficult people to work with because they're the people who really believe that the answer is in the footnote on the bottom of page 73. I mean,
Right.
that must be it. If you just argue the facts perfectly, they don't have any idea. But that was absolutely fascinating. And we saw that our initial instincts about what trial and theater have in common were more true than we even had imagined, and what lawyers needed and what we could teach them. And also, frankly, I was fearless. I would walk into an office and I would say, I can help you be better. And if it was somebody who was in my generation or a little bit older than I was in good shape. I think we're the first group of people, baby boomers, to actually admit that we need help. I would go into a greatest generation person's office and he would literally say, oh, if you had gone to my law school and made law review like I did and had belonged to my fraternity, you'd just know how to try a case. So, not so good. But they're dying, and here we all still are. That's the good news. But that's how we started. And AAJ, well, ATLA, its predecessor organization, they got us immediately. They got us right away. Always interested in education, that group.
So one of the things that you do as a trial consultant now, and you've helped me on, is witness preparation.
Oh, yeah.
How did you get that to become part of your business and part of what you do?
Well, it started out with lawyers in workshops, and we were only teaching in workshops. And then it went to lawyers coming up to us after workshops and saying, could you help me? Could you help me do this? Could you help me do that? Could you help me with my opening, my real opening, not just an abstract opening? Sure, I can do that. Can you help me with my demeanor? Absolutely. So it grew really from that into, this just sounds weird, but could you help me with a witness, a client? I've got a problem client. And my thinking, well, I can't guarantee anything, which is, by the way, what I still say. Can't guarantee anything. But let me try. Let me try to help you. And out of that, I discovered that maybe the real reason I was put on this earth was to help witnesses. I love lawyers. I love them so much. I gave birth to one. I gave birth to a plaintiff's lawyer. I know you embryonically. You hold a mystery for me. My older son, I've given to the profession, like a family gives their child to the priesthood. I have a plaintiff's lawyer in my family. But by golly, those witnesses, it's the people who don't know what the heck is going on, and who have every right to be as good in a courtroom or as good in deposition as you are. They have my heart. They have my heart.
And for all of us that try cases, we know that, you can lose a case so fast when, it doesn't matter what I do to prepare and how great my arguments are and the points that I make. When that key witness or that plaintiff takes the stand, if they don't come through and the jury doesn't identify with them, the case is lost.
Absolutely. Because there are three pieces, right? Liability, causation, and damages. And if the jurors do not see the damages as being vital, if they don't want to make this person better, then it's over. Then it's over. It's not just that they're able to tell the story. It's that the jurors want to help them. The jurors want to make things right and make things better with your witness, with your plaintiff.
So you've taken the culmination of your years of working with attorneys and working with witnesses, and you've got a book coming out, or should be out by now. Tell me about the book.
Well, the title of it is Har-vesting Witnesses Stories, and the subtitle is How to Get Your Client the Second Best Life in the World by Maximizing Human Damages.
So you talked about focusing on human damages, and you eloquently put embryonic. I like how you fit embryonic earlier. You use the phrase human damages poetry. Can you tell us about that?
Well, a while ago, a few decades ago, I came to the realization that when people are speaking from their hearts about how they've been hurt, what their lives were like, what they're like now, and their fears for the future, that they're speaking actually in blank verse. They're speaking in poetry. It's oral poetry. I used to think, it was all just in paragraph form, maybe because lines in a play that aren't written as poetry, so you're not dealing with Shakespeare, are written in sort of a paragraph form. But that's not how people speak. People speak in poetry. And I wrote down a number of the poems called Poems of My Witnesses that just really affected me. And then I realized as I went forward and worked more and more, everybody, once we get down to it, they are speaking poetry, I worked with a young man yesterday and I said, well, what's going on with you? And he said, Katherine, first line, right? Katherine, I'm just numb. I'm just numb. And I don't know when I'm ever going to feel anything again. Do you feel that, how those are lines and the rhythm of what he said? That's human damages as poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
What made you decide to write the book?
Well, I'd been thinking about the book for a while. And frankly, AAJ came to me and said, we want you to write a book on witness preparation. We do not have a book on witness preparation. We never have had one. And Greg Cusimano, I think you know Greg.
Very well.
was very excited about this idea, and a couple of other people, and they said, "We want your book. We want you to write this book." And I thought, well, it's a legacy. It's something that I've wanted to do. I think it can make a difference, and I want to write it in a very useful form that will allow people to really learn from it, absorb it, and be able to use it.
And what do you hope lawyers that read it take away from it?
I hope that they're going to both find the solution to whatever problem they have in this moment, because I know there are people who are going to pick it up because they think, oh my gosh, I've got somebody on Tuesday that's just, I don't know what to do with. There are other people who are going to read it from beginning to end. I'm hoping that they'll be able to find what they are looking for in the stories, find the unit, even though all of the tales, because it's divided into tales and tools and techniques that have been used in the tales for the solutions to the witness problems. I'm hoping that they'll be able to look at a tale, read it, or listen to it, because there's also going to be an audiobook, and they'll be able to say to themselves, wow, I know that this is about a truck wreck, and I'm dealing with somebody who's a victim of medical mal, but I see how they're related to one another. I understand how this speaks to me. Oh, this solution, I can use the letter, for example, or any of a number of techniques that I've developed over the decades. That's what I'm hoping, is that it'll sit on someone's desk and be a go-to all the time.
So I teach, you guys teach at the high level, you teach the ultimate and the professional trial lawyers, and I can't teach with you. I got to go as a student. But I do get to teach like the Essentials College, which is the newer lawyers that are really just learning how to try cases. If you had one piece of advice for me to pass along to younger lawyers to say, when you're working with witnesses, you should be doing this, what would you suggest?
Building a relationship of trust through listening to them, rather than assuming you are supposed to deliver a magic list lecture that, like fairy dust sprinkled on their heads, is going to make them better witnesses.
Right. That's a great point. I mean, when you talk about listening versus telling, it's their story to tell, right?
Absolutely. And you're going to miss everything if you don't listen. The first question I always ask in every session is, what to a witness is, what questions, concerns, thoughts do you have about having your deposition taken on Tuesday, or going to trial next month, or whatever the legal setting is we're facing? And very rarely does somebody say, concerns? I don't have any concerns. And then I get to say, oh, that was so stupid of me. I can't believe I used that word. What do you think about it? I just changed word. But it's about them. It's witness-based preparation, not lawyer-driven preparation, that wins cases and wins the hearts and minds of your clients.
Yeah. Katherine's so excited that the book's out, and I've already told everybody in my office I'm getting everybody a copy. For me, it's one of those. It's going to be a must read. It's, if you're a trial lawyer and you do what we do, you have to read your book. I'm really excited about it.
Well, thank you. You have a piece in that book. Or there's a Tad Thomas story in that book that is vital and essential and very good in the tales section.
Isn't there a Tad Thomas story in every book?
There should be a Tad Thomas story in every book.
Oh my gosh,
There certainly is one in mine. One of the most wonderful plaintiffs that I've met up with in the past years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As a friend of Tad's.
I've got some Tad Thomas stories, but I don't think they could ever go in a book.
No, and we're going to make people buy Katherine's book to see the other story, because it's a good.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
That sounds good to me. And
Very
I'm happy, just give me a holler when you read it, or after this podcast or whatever. I'm happy to talk with you about any issues or concerns you have. Happy to, all it costs is a phone call or an email.
That's great, Katherine. And we're going to put up on our show notes where to buy the book, and as well as your contact information, and to get a hold of you guys at Active Communication. So thank you so much for joining us, Katherine.
Thank you. This was awesome.
Thank you, Katherine.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, her book is phenomenal. I haven't got the hard copy yet, but I was able, to get the preview and get the electronic version so I could review it before it came out. And man, she's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's outstanding, and her approach kind of fits right within my wheelhouse. I'm a fan of trying to get my client's story, not trying to impress the story upon my client, but really trying to, flesh it out from the client, from herself. So what an outstanding resource.
And her advice to listen is so important. I know the cases that I get involved in that I really feel good about are the ones where, I've gone and sat in their dining room, and I've sat in their living room and talked to them about what they went through and what they're going through after whatever tragedy happened in their lives. And, it makes you a better advocate. And when you're, 2 years after, you interview them for the first time in their living room, and you've got them on the witness stand, and when they're answering questions, and they're nervous and they're not really telling the story, you have the ability to ask those really key questions and things that are going to get them to show the emotion and to show what they're really going through. And you don't know that if you do Zoom conferences with them. You got to sit in their living room.
And you are very busy, right? I'm busy, but you're very busy. And so what advice would you have for someone who is also very busy and thinking, I don't have a day? Or if you're sitting with a client and they're not being forthcoming, and you're thinking in your head, I got this thing to do, I got that thing to do, I just need to check the box on this project. What advice would you have?
Then you don't need to be handling the case.
It's pretty easy. That's pretty simple advice.
I'm busy. I've got a lot of things on my plate, but if I'm going to stand in front of a jury and talk to them about, what this tragedy that my clients have had, if I can't take a day or half a day or 2 days or 3 days to sit with them and really understand, then I don't have enough time to be trying the case. That's, you can't turn that over to somebody else. Now you can turn over and assist with preparation, which is what Katherine does, and Andrew that works with them. They can help with the preparation. But if you can't feel that same emotion that the client feels about what they went through, you don't need to be trying that case. You give it to somebody else and let them do it right. If you're not going to do it right, don't do it. You're not doing justice to them or yourself in that situation.
That's right. And I like how her background is in theater. And if I could get up right now and perform a closing statement I gave once, and it was basically, this is my guy's life, and here's the couch he sits on in his kitchen and sleeps in it because he can't go lay down in his own bed because of the pain in his neck, and here's what the couch looked like. And I don't get that information unless I go to the person's house and I sit with them and I find out that this is a red couch and a small kitchen, and you describe it, and it almost becomes it almost comes to life. And you don't get that if you're just kind of, again, checking the box of a Zoom call or on the phone.
And there's so many different ways to prep witnesses, that I've heard from other lawyers about. And, that kind of leads me into, the whole reason why we did Lawyer Minds was lawyers sharing, information with other lawyers to help make them better. And, I imagine that there's lawyers listening to this that have interesting ways of prepping witnesses.
Yep.
And, so if they're out there listening, Mike, what should they do if they want to help get that information out?
I mean, just go on Lawyer Minds and nominate yourself for an interview. Reach out to us. We have specific questions related to witness prep. We'd love for you to answer, and people would love to know about. There's not one size fits all on this. It is literally unique to each of us how we approach these things. And if you could just share your story with us, our readers would be appreciative, and I know we would too.
Mike, great interview. Enjoyed it as always.
Yep. Looking forward to the next one.
All right. Talk to you soon.
That wraps another episode of the official Lawyer Minds podcast. Please consider subscribing to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Explore the other content Lawyer Minds has to offer and engage with us on social media. Your feedback on the show and ideas for future shows is always welcomed. See you next time.